guys, so I just watched the new Netflix movie Cuties and I just wanted to give my opinion on it. This video is probably going to be a bit all over the place because it's just sort of everything that comes out right now. I haven't gotten anything written down or something like that. But I just want to give my opinion as somebody who has studied childcare and child development. So the reason I watched the movie was actually because I came across a video on YouTube of somebody who was talking about how wrong this movie was and how Netflix shouldn't have put it on their website, released, that's what I'm looking for. They were complaining about how Netflix shouldn't have released the video or the movie, and they base it on part of a clip they saw. They said, this person said that he couldn't even watch until the end of the clip because it was so wrong. I decided to have a look for myself. Going into it, I didn't really know what to think. On one hand, yes, there was wrong PR. The PR was about sexualizing girls, which obviously is really, really wrong. On the other hand, this movie had won an award at the Sundace festival, and it wouldn't have done that if it was that wrong. So I sort of went into it with mixed feelings. I came out of it definitely wanting to defend this movie. The thing that people keep falling over is the fact that these are 11-year-olds being sexualized. The problem is, this is what 11-year-olds are doing nowadays. 11-year-olds are getting social media accounts. 11-year-olds are being introduced to an adult world way too young. As an 11-year-old, you feel like you're big. You're not a kid anymore. You're starting, especially for girls, hormones are starting to take over your body. You are wanting to explore the world. You feel like you're big. You don't realize you're little. And that is what this movie is about. These girls are seeing these older girls and they're wanting to be just like them. That is reality. And the problem is that these 11-year-old girls, in reality, just as in the movie, have no idea about boundaries yet. They don't understand the rules yet. They don't understand what going too far is. They don't understand what sexualizing your body can do. And I think the image at the end, spoilers if you've not watched it, but the image at the end where she's jumping rope jumping, whatever it's called, is such a good image because it makes you remember that these are 11-year-old kids, and that in a way they are still kids and they're still very young, but they inside have this sort of need to be something that they're not, to impress other kids, to impress the boys. And as an 11-year-old, you're trying to figure out how things work. What do boys look like? What is sex in the case of this movie is something that is talked about between these girls, and in a way it is done in a very 11-year-old way, because on one hand they're describing things they're seeing, but on the other hand they're also getting a lot of the information wrong, which is so clear, because that's sort of the knowledge that an 11-year-old has of what is sex and what it entails and what are the rules and how do you get pregnant and when is something called rape. They don't understand that yet, and that is something that's clear in this movie, and I think that's so well done. It is taken down to an 11-year-old's perspective of the world, and they don't understand it yet, and that's what you see. They don't understand that what they're doing is unacceptable. And I do have to say, I skipped over the final dance performance with all the twerking, but what I got from it, the gist of it, is that the audience was also slightly appalled by what they were seeing, and that I think is really good. Yes, they were twerking in front of an audience of adults. That is what is being complained about, but what they're not saying is how those adults were reacting. The fact that they were sort of going, this is wrong, this is not okay. They were booing these kids for doing what they were doing. So yes, they were doing it, but again, the movie got it right. They had the right reaction. The mum, halfway through the movie, when she realises that her kid is doing these things and sort of flips out, that is a normal reaction. Like, as a parent, especially as a very conservative religious parent who is raising their children very conservative, to then see your kid in a crop top twerking is sort of appalling and scary, and you think they might be possessed by demons, which is what happens in the movie, or at least what I think they think is going on. And again, it's something that is a real situation. This is not unlike anything that is happening in this world right now, and it is something that needs to be talked about. And the whole sexualizing young kids, it doesn't just happen in the dance industry, and in this case it is a group of 11-year-olds who do not have formal dance training, who do not have formal dance coaches, who do not have anybody telling them what is right and what is wrong, what they can and can't do. It's themselves looking on the internet, looking at older kids and performing a dance routine that they've created based on what these older kids are doing, because that's what they're looking up to, that's what they want to be. But even in the sort of supervised dance circuit, look at dance moms. These girls have probably the same amount of fabric on as the girls that in the movie. You know, they've got like short shorts and little bandeaus or whatever. They haven't got a lot more clothing. Look at like gymnasts. They've got these leotards that are coming up to here nowadays, covering only the slightest bit of their front and back. It's all so hypersexualized, you know, in all sports. What the adults are doing, I don't care, but it's about the little kids that are already being dressed that way, that are already being exposed to showing skin when it's not necessary, you know. And that is the world we live in, and that is a supervised, that is coaches telling these kids, you have to wear a leotard, you have to wear this costume. These kids do not even have that. They're just looking at what these older kids are doing and copying them and taking it too far, because they don't understand that they're only 11 years old and that the rules are different when you're 11 versus when you're 16, 18, 25, you know. And that is what this movie is about. It's not about parents forcing anything upon their kids. It's not about people sexualizing kids. It's about kids not understanding the rules of society yet, and not understanding that they're only 11 years old, that they're not adults, that they are not grown women, that they're not supposed to be like that yet. And that's reality. That's what you're seeing everywhere right now. That is kids trying to figure out this world. You know, when I was 11, 16 years ago now, I had no idea about the world. I was just with my friends in my own bubble. When I was 11, YouTube didn't exist. We didn't have that kind of exposure yet at that point in time. We were just kids being kids. We played kids games, we listened to kids music, we watched kids movies. Nowadays, young kids are listening to Mignonnes telling them to shake their butt, whatever else they're singing, you know. I'm not that into that scene, obviously, otherwise I would be able to give more than one example. But all of these kids are being exposed to that, and the problem is that they don't realise that they're not old enough for that, and that is what this movie is saying. And I think the reason everybody should watch this movie, especially parents to young kids, is to make yourselves aware of what is going on, that this is something that is going on, that your child might be like this behind your back, that your child might be exposed to this culture, might want to look like that and dress like that and be older than they are, because that's what they're seeing on television. I know that Twitter has an age limit of 13, and I think Instagram is the same, and yet you see so many of these younger kids on Instagram, on Twitter, getting a following and also looking at other people that are older than them and not realizing that there are different rules when you're 11 versus when you're 16 or 18 or 25. And that is what kids need to become aware of, and that's what parents need to become aware of, that your kid is being exposed to this, and that you need to have a conversation with your kid, that you need to be looking at what your kid is looking at and explaining to them that it's not okay, that this is something that is not age appropriate, and that when they're 18 they can make the choices for themselves, but when they're 10, 11, 12, parents need to have rules for their kids of what they can and can't do, can and can't wear, can and can't see, can and can't listen to. You as a parent are in charge of your kid and responsible for your kid, and I just need parents to become aware of it, because that is what's going on, and that is what this movie is saying. None of these kids are doing this in front of their parents. None of these kids have their parents' consent to do this. They're all doing it somewhere in a random part of town, secluded where nobody can see them. Because in a way, I do think they know that what they're doing is wrong, but they still want to do it. And it could be your kid standing on that stage, twerking and whatnot. Let's all watch this movie and let's get the right message from it. Yes, it's sexualizing it, but that is the whole point. It's making sure that people start talking about this and people become aware that this is reality nowadays, that this is what kids are being exposed to. So I would love to know from you guys in the comments what your opinions were about the movie. Initially, sort of maybe even before you watched the movie, the controversy that it brought on, or that the PR team brought on, how you thought about it going into it, and then how you thought about it coming out of it. Do you think this is something that should be banned from Netflix, or are you saying this is something that needs to be watched by many more people, and especially by parents, so that they become aware of what's going on in the world right now? Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon.